All right, and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got our 5 best bets for college basketball here on December 29th. Of course, an early video today for college basketball since it being Sunday, and we've got some early games. And, we don't have the best slate today, I'm going to be honest with you guys. There's not many big-time games in the world of college basketball. Obviously, again, yesterday we had a big game between Gonzaga and UCLA. Don't ask me what Gonzaga's last play was to try to win that basketball game, heaving up the half quarter with 2.5 seconds to go. Regardless, there's not one big marquee game for college basketball today, which makes sense. Obviously, again, it is, a Sunday the NFL is on. I guess maybe if you want to say Western Kentucky versus Michigan is somewhat of a marquee game, you can. I'm personally going to stay away from that game. I think WKU is one of the better teams at the CUSA. I think only Liberty's better than them, but I really don't trust betting WKU to cover the 18.5 against Michigan. That's a bonus play. Another bonus play, I'm not going to include it in the 5 best bets because I know you guys are sick of the Jackrabbits, but South Dakota State does go to Tuscaloosa today, and that is another bonus play. Plus 22.5 on the Jackrabbits. I know, again, Alabama did go to North Dakota where they only won by 7 points at Grand Forks. But South Dakota State comes into Tuscaloosa. They're getting 22.5 points. I think they're a lot better than the 22.5 point dogs that Vegas has them at in Alabama. I get it, Bama's ranked 5, but I do think SDSU is able to cover that line. Again, that's not an official play, but I had to mention it again because South Dakota State, of course, we talk about them every single game they play. So we had to fish through, our best bets for today's college basketball slate. But if you do want to see our NBA video, there is 6 games in the association today, and that video will be coming out on the channel in an hour. So make sure to stay tuned for that, and also go make sure to check out our NFL predictions. Of course, the NFL comes on in a couple hours, and we have got you covered for every single game on the NFL slate this week. And of course, same with college football. Of course, the college football playoffs are coming right up, and here's the full schedule of our bowl predictions. The next video coming up on the channel will be January 2nd, where we'll have the final 4 predictions for the college football playoffs, plus the FCS championship game, and plus every other bowl game, including the Bahamas Bowl between Liberty and Buffalo, coming up on the channel again on January 2nd. Okay, and also, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. And we start off with one hell of a matchup between Iona and Harvard. Okay, guys, we're going to be picking a lot more teams today that we've been familiar with throughout the course of the season. Both these teams, actually, we have picked games with before, but we're going to go to New Rochelle, New York for this game between Iona and Harvard. Again, yesterday, my fault for throwing in Richmond against good old FGCU, Florida Gulf Coast. That's my fault. Yes, Richmond is really bad. I saw the comments. I understand that. That was a bad pick on my end. But now we're going to be picking against the worst team in the Ivy League, and that is Harvard. Harvard's not that good this year. They are 3-8. The wins are Marist, Colgate, and on the road at New Hampshire. Their losses this season: Navy, American, Northeastern, Colorado, who cares? That's not a bad loss, but whatever. They lost the game by 22. UMass, St. John's, okay, whatever. Holy Cross by 1, and then Furman in their last game. But Harvard as a whole is not very good. They struggle to score more than 65 points in any game. They're led by Robert Hinton, their guard, who averages 15 points per game, and Chandler Piggy. I believe that's the pronunciation on his name. It's definitely not that. But he's averaging 12.5, and he is their best board getter. I believe he plays the 3 for them. He's averaging, again, 12.5 and 8. We've talked about Harvard earlier this season. We've also, again, picked an Iona game. Now, Iona, I believe we were picking against them. I believe the one time we picked Iona. Yeah, we picked Sacred Heart, I believe, to cover against Iona. I think that was the one Iona game we did earlier this year. I think. I could be mistaken. Or was it the Princeton game to start the year? It was one of the two. I don't remember, I'll be honest with you. But we're going to be picking the Iona Gales in this one. Now, okay, Iona's 4-8, but they are a 4-8 team in the MAAC. And, their losses this season, they're not great losses, but they're not bad losses at the same time. Okay, on the road losing to Princeton by 1 point, there's no shame in that. Hofstra on the road 14, Delaware at home losing by 6. Vermont win. They go to Morgantown and lose to WVU, the Mountaineers. They lose to Cornell. They beat Tarleton State. They lose to the Sycamores of Indiana State by 3. They lose to Rice by 4. Sacred Heart by 20-something. But the thing is, this is why I'm taking Iona in this basketball game. Guys, they're playing with some momentum right now. They've won back-to-back. They went on the road and beat Sacred Heart. They went on the road and beat Colgate, and prior to that, they beat the Peacocks of St. Peter's by 9 points. And this is an Iona team that is led by DeJour Reeves, who's averaging 16 points per game. You've got Adam Nije, that's his name, averaging 11.5 points, and James Patterson as well is going to be averaging 11.5. Their big is Yafet Mundi, who's averaging 7 points and 6 on the glass as well. Iona is just better than Harvard. And when we look at the line for this basketball game, we're getting 3.5 points for Iona at home. That's going to make a big difference. Again, playing this game in New Rochelle, New York. Now, I don't know what home court advantage we're looking at here for Iona. You know what, let's take a look. What is the hometown environment going to be looking like for the Gales in this game? Oh, let's do this. Here we go. Let's see what the Gales are rocking with at the Heinz Athletic Center in New Rochelle, New York. Okay, the first thing that pops up is this. Okay, let's just go to the actual arena. This looks like my local high school gym, but it's okay. You know, this is fine. You know, this will play. Right, guys, this will play. This will play for Iona. We're going to take them to cover the 3.5 points. Again, Harvard having to go on the road. Harvard, they've been struggling. They're 3-8. They beat New Hampshire a couple games ago. Who cares? But Iona, again, is on somewhat of a heater, right? Iona's stacked back-to-back wins. I get it. Again, it's against the Peacocks of St. Peter's and Colgate, but still, back-to-back wins. That's something. They've put up 72 and 79 points in back-to-back games, something that ultimately Harvard struggles to do. And DeJour Reeves, obviously, again, with the 19 points in the victory against St. Peter's, the 20 points in the victory on the road at Colgate. He, again, is their leading scorer, and he should dominate in this basketball game. The theme of today's video, if anything, is picking against bad basketball teams. There's going to be a lot more later in the video, but again, don't think Iona's the greatest, but they are not as bad as the Harvard Crimson. Again, we are picking against a bad basketball team here, and the bad basketball team I'm looking at, again, is the Harvard Crimson. So give me the Iona Gales to win the basketball game at home in New Rochelle, and they'll cover the 3.5 points as well. Next up, we move on to our second game of the video. We go to High Point University versus Norfolk State. So High Point University is banned, right? I'm never picking them ever again. And of course, the time we picked against High Point University, they were able to go out there and pick up a big victory against, I believe it was North Texas. I think we picked against them. Where's the App State game? No, it was the North Texas game. So if you don't recall, early in the year, we picked High Point to beat UNC Greensboro, and they absolutely laid an egg for us. It was atrocious, and I refused to pick High Point University again. This ultimately, though, isn't me hating on High Point University, because again, if you've been watching throughout the college basketball season, you know I've been pretty high on the Norfolk State Spartans. I think they're by far the best MEAC team, by far. I think, again, some of these teams like Copen State and Maryland Eastern Shore and, you know, Howard's horrible. Trust me, we picked Howard this season. It was a bad decision. Norfolk State is the best team in this conference. It's not even close, and they're playing really good basketball. So most recently, again, we picked Norfolk State on back-to-back days on December 19th and December 20th at it was the Chris Paul HBCU Classic. I think it was in the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. They were able to win back-to-back games in that tournament or invitational, and they were able to beat two other HBCU schools. They beat Alabama State, and they beat Grambling in back-to-back days. They blew out Alabama State, and they were able to hold on and pull off a legacy covering that game. They were 5.5-point favorites. Brian Moore knocks down 2 free throws at the end of the game with 0.2 seconds to give us the cover and win the game by 6 points. So shout out to the Spartans. They've been really good for us all season long, and they're going to continue to be good for us. Again, Brian Moore is the best player in the MEAC. He should win the most valuable player, the player of the league award, or conference player of the year award at the end of the season. He's by far the best guy in this conference. And Norfolk State, guys, is going to, I'm not saying they're going to win a game in the NCAA tournament this year, but they're going to give one of the, 1 seed, a 2 seed, or a 3 seed a lot of trouble. Again, traditionally, the HBCU schools haven't been the best, obviously coming into the tournament because they do play a lot of bye games. And Norfolk State, they did do that as well. They did have a lot of bye games this season, but ultimately, again, they were able to show something in their bye games, right? They went to UC Davis, won that game by 20-1. That's not entirely a bye game. More of the bye games they were playing was, Stanford. They went on the road, kept that game close. That game was like low-key rigged, so it is what it is. Norfolk State should have won, but still is a very competitive game in Palo Alto, California. They lost to Grand Canyon. It is what it is. Ultimately, though, this is not that bad of a Norfolk State Spartans team, and again, they are led by Brian Moore, who is a hooper. He does it all for this Norfolk State team, but especially, again, he's able to attack the rim. He's able to shoot it as well. All around, just their best scorer, Brian Moore, averaging 18.5 points. There's also Christian Ings, who's going to be averaging 13 points for this Norfolk State Spartans team as well. Sincere McMahon, another really good player for the squad, who just all around plays a bunch of minutes and just gets it done for them on the defensive side of the ball. Jalen Myers is really good, too. I just, as a whole, really like this Norfolk State team, and we get 10.5 points for them on the road here against a High Point University team that sure is 12-2, but I think they're a really padded 12-2 school. I don't think their record really indicates how good they are. I don't think they're, oh wow, look at High Point University. They're great. I think they might win the Big South because I really like looking at the Big South right now. I don't know, maybe Longwood's better than them, maybe Winthrop. But the Big South, I'm not that high on. You got teams like SC Upstate in there as well. You got Charleston Southern. Like, these just bad teams playing the Big South. Obviously, again, High Point choked the Big South championship game, sorry, the semifinal game of the Big South tournament last year. But this is a 12-2 team. But guys, look what they've beat: Copen State, Jackson State, NC Central, UAB, American, lost to Missouri State, Old Dominion, Hampton, and they're playing NIAAs. They beat Pfeiffer. They beat Carolina University 99-31. North Texas, good win. App State, decent win. Southern Illinois on the road, all right. Lose on the road at UNC Greensboro. When this team is tested, they lose. I'm not saying they're going to lose outright to Norfolk State, but I don't think they're able to cover the 10.5 points. Team's led by Demarion Williams, averaging 15 points. Giffa averaging 14. Kamani Hamilton averaging 13. Again, I'm not saying the High Point University Panthers are all that bad. I don't think they are a bad team. Personally, I'm staying away from them. They've just screwed me too many times. Last year in the Big South semifinals, this year on the road at UNC Greensboro. I do like Norfolk State in the spot. Again, we've been high on the Spartans all year long, and we're going to continue to pick Brian Moore and the guys from Norfolk, Virginia. Give me the Spartans to take care of business on the road in High Point, North Carolina. They'll cover the 10.5 points. Ultimately, yes, if I had to make a pick on the money line, sure, the Panthers, but obviously there's no value in that. Give me plus 10.5 here on the Norfolk State Spartans to go on the road and keep it close with High Point University. Next up, we go to another bad basketball team. Again, there was no real bad basketball team in that last game, but now this is where we start looking at the bad teams. Morgan State goes on the road to Minneapolis to take on Minnesota. Guys, I don't think Minnesota can beat anybody by 21 points. Just don't think they can. They haven't done it all year long, with the exception of their opener when they beat Oral Roberts by 23 points. And this is a Minnesota team that has played Bethune-Cookman this year. They did cover. They were 16.5 point favorites. They won the game by 17. That's the only time we've picked Minnesota successfully this season. They beat FDU by 14 points. They're not going to beat Morgan State by more than 21. Okay? And now Morgan State, are they all that good? No, they're not. They just lost a game by 27 points to Iowa State. Xavier scored 119 points on them. Bowling Green scored 102 points on them. Buffalo beat them by 9 points. UMBC beat them 92-69. And again, I know what you're thinking. Why should we back Morgan State, the Bears, in this basketball game? Well, this is why. Because Minnesota absolutely sucks at basketball. That's why we're back in Morgan State. Guys, Minnesota can't score. So again, the reason and the way that Morgan State loses basketball games is because they give up a bunch of points. They just can't play defense. Even in their losses, right? Going to Iowa State, they do still put up 72 points. Now, again, the Cyclones scored 99, even though Iowa State top 5 team in the country, but still, again, they still put up 72 points at Iowa State, right? Bowling Green lost. Sure, they gave up 102. They scored 81 points against Bowling Green on the road, okay? Buffalo lost. Give up 82. They score 73. They are able to score. Minnesota can't score to save their lives. This is the worst team in the Big Ten. It's not even close. You think Washington's horrible? Because they are. But Minnesota is even worse. Again, Washington's absolutely horrendous. Minnesota's on a whole nother level. These two teams play this season, right? Yes. February 1st, that's like right before the Super Bowl. Guys, we will be absolutely seated for that basketball game. Minnesota versus Washington, the worst of the worst in the Big Ten, go at it in Minneapolis, and we are gonna take Washington. I don't care how bad Osabor and the Huskies have been this season, and losing to Seattle University. They will beat Minnesota because of how bad this Golden Gophers team is. Guys, it's Dawson Garcia, and that's about it. Obviously, again, Garcia's averaging 19 points per game, but when Garcia doesn't have a crazy night, Minnesota's screwed. That's just how they play. Lucy Patterson, he's all right. He's averaging 10 points a game. Mike Mitchell's back. But honestly, if anything, Mike Mitchell's production and the numbers that Mitchell is going to put up takes away somewhat from Dawson Garcia, just because the amount of shots Garcia is going to get up and the amount of looks Garcia is going to get down low. Well, now Mike Mitchell comes back into the swing of things, and it just messes up the flow of the offense. Again, he's been back for about a month now, and it hasn't really made too big of a difference. But guys, this is a team that's played 2 Big Ten games this year. They got blown out against Michigan State, and they got blown out in Bloomington against Indiana. I don't think Indiana's all that good, but they're definitely better than Minnesota. Again, we picked IU in that basketball game. It's probably the only time we're going to take IU all year long because the Hoosiers just aren't good. Mike Woodson can't get it figured out. Again, we're all behind Signetti and Indiana basketball and Fernando Mendoza next year. They're going back to the postseason. They will beat Penn State on the road. They'll lose to Oregon, but they're going to go 11-1. They will be the number 5 seed in the college football playoffs next season. Just don't worry about it. They will get to play, I don't know, let's throw out, they'll play Southern Miss in the first. Southern Miss isn't going to the playoffs. They'll probably play Boise in the playoffs. Who knows? But regardless, Indiana basketball can't get it figured out. Minnesota basketball, even worse. They don't score, guys. Their wins. 74 points against FDU. 79 against Bethune-Cookman. 68 against Central Michigan. 58 against Cleveland State, who's horrible. 59 against, I thought about picking Wright State against Cleveland State today, but Wright State's really bad too, so I can't. I can't do that. 68 points against Omaha. Guys, they've scored 80 once this season. It's in their opener against Oral Roberts where they put up 80. It was Dawson Garcia's best game of the season, but again, his production is going to slightly go down with Mike Mitchell returning, and again, the presence that Mitchell has and the command of the rock that he's going to have, obviously. Again, Morgan State's not that good, but they score, guys. The Bears score. Winston Tabb, 16 points a game. Amari Simpkins, 12.5. Will Thomas, Cameron Hobbs. These guys score. They put up big numbers. Yeah, they don't play defense, but what, is Minnesota going to hit those shots? No, they're not. So Morgan State should be able to keep this game closer than the spread is given. 20.5? Come on now. I'm not saying Morgan State's going to go to Minneapolis and win, but Minnesota's not covering 20.5 points at home. Give me Morgan State to cover in Minneapolis. Next up, we go on to our next one. That was a very reductive. Reductive? Is that the word? Redundant. Oh my goodness. Redundant. I swear I go to school. I swear I actually do attend class. Army versus UTSA. And English is my first language too. That was bad. That was horrible. Maybe I should just enlist in the Army. But if I did that, maybe I'd get to play on the Army basketball team. They're not good. The Army Black Knights are not a good basketball team. Again, there's the theme. We're taking the UTSA Roadrunners on the road. Guys, this is a UTSA team that's been building momentum. Again, you know how highly I think of the Summit League. They were able to beat North Dakota in back-to-back games. We call it both of those. I didn't feature the second North Dakota UTSA game, but I said if they win the first game, they're probably going to win the second one too. That's exactly what happened. UTSA's been building momentum. I know, again, their third win of this win streak is against Southwest Adventist. What is that? I don't know. But who cares? UTSA is a 6-5 team this season, wins over Trinity, Texas, Merrimack, Houston Christian, and then 2 victories over North Dakota, and then the win over Adventist. Their losses, though, guys, and this is why I've been kind of high on UTSA this season. Bradley, okay, Bradley's not a bad basketball team, losing by 13, whatever. Little Rock, I'm just going to throw that game out. That didn't happen. Troy on the road, 14, okay. Going to Moraga and losing to St. Mary's by 8 points is a game that they pushed to overtime. They were down by 20 points at halftime. They pushed back in that one, almost beat the Gales, and of course they lose in OT, but that was a very impressive performance from UTSA in that game. And they go to Fayetteville after that and only lose by 15 on the road at Arkansas. And again, you know how good the entire SEC is in basketball this season, and UTSA has got one of the most efficient and best scorers in all of college basketball. We are talking about Primo Spears. Spears averaging 22.5 points per game. He is by far their guy here at the UTSA Roadrunners. 28 points in the victory, the first victory over UND this season. The loss again to St. Mary's, Spears put up 24 points for the Roadrunners. This dude's a baller. Primo Spears is good. And UTSA again relies on him to win basketball games. They're taking on the Army Black Knights. Ooh, they're not good. Guys, their wins this season, I don't know how they put up 100 points on Lemoyne. Well, Lemoyne's absolutely awful. They beat Lemoyne in a triple overtime game, 103-100. That's their last victory, December 3rd. So they're coming up on about a month of winless basketball here for the Army Black Knights. Now, they've only played 3 games since that Lemoyne win, though. Losing to Cornell, losing to George Washington, the good old Revolutionaries, losing to Biddinghampton. That just sounds British. I refuse to believe Biddinghampton, wherever the hell, Biddington, I refuse this is a real place. This just sounds like they belong in England, man. Vestal, New York. Where's Vestal, New York? Middle of, but nowhere. I don't know. I don't want to get demonetized. Regardless, yeah, Biddington's horrible. Army's horrible. Army's 5-6 this season. Again, lost to Duke, lost to Marist, lost to Manhattan. Their wins: FDU, Albany, Mount St. Mary's, New York, Lemoyne, SUNY, Maritime. I think that's like a Army school or Navy school. It's a service school. I don't know. UTSA is just a better team, guys. Guys, if UTSA loses this game, something's wrong. Come on. You've got Primo Spears. You got guys who score a lot. You're not going to West Point and losing this basketball game. Jalen Rucker's good. Josh Scovins, these guys can score. They can't really shoot. They can score. But Primo Spears should have a field day against this team. Seriously. Marcus Millender, too. These guys should be able to score at will, and they should dominate Army. Again, we are getting close to an even line for this basketball game. -1.5 for the Roadrunners, -120 on the money line. We like the UTSA Roadrunners to go to West Point and take care of the Army Black Knights. Let's go on to our final game of the video, our final best bet of the video, and it is the cesspool known as UC Riverside taking on St. Thomas, Minnesota. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, I thought this too, guys. Does So this is the original graphic I made. Guys, UCR, or not UCR, crap. UCR is just horrible. St. Mary's logo looks just like Holy Cross, is it not? Here, that's like what it should be. This is St. Thomas, Minnesota. That's Holy Cross. I got it mixed up when I initially did the graphic. So whoops, I just kind of threw St. Thomas, Minnesota's logo on top of Holy Cross. My bad. But here we are. St. Thomas, Minnesota versus the cesspool known as UC Riverside. We are never picking UC Riverside to win a basketball game ever. Their basketball team's not the only thing that sucks there. Just everything sucks at UC Riverside. And that's not the reason why we're picking against the Highlanders. St. Thomas will win this basketball game. Guys, UCR is not good. I don't care. Oh, they go on a little winning streak. Oh, they beat CSU Northridge. They beat Fullerton. They beat St. Francis, Illinois. They beat Montana State. I'll give them credit. But coming off the loss to UNLV, again, that was expected, right? This team goes to Idaho. They lose earlier in the year. They did beat Colorado State, which doesn't make sense, but that's why we picked New Mexico to beat Colorado State yesterday, and obviously, look what happened. I watched this UC Riverside team play earlier this year. I saw them in Santa Clara, and I saw them get absolutely destroyed. They lost the game by 32 points. They're not good. This team's just bad. Barrington Hargress isn't bad. He, plays pretty much the entire game for UC Riverside. He puts up 19 points per game. The rest of the team isn't good. I don't mind their center, Joel Armo Trading. I don't think that's how to say his name, but honestly, watching him in person, he was really it felt like he was the center of this team. Obviously, again, not scoring wise, but it felt like, again, if they didn't have their big in the game against Santa Clara when I was watching them, they wouldn't have lost the game by 30 points. They would have lost it by 50. St. Thomas, Minnesota is just by far the way better basketball team. It's that simple, guys. The Summit League's a good league, right? You get North Dakota State, you get St. Thomas, you get South Dakota State, you get South Dakota. These are good teams, right? These are good teams. These are teams that are going to, again, give other mid-majors a lot of problems, or traditional one-bid conferences a lot of trouble. And that's exactly what St. Thomas is going to do against UC Riverside here. Guys, St. Thomas is a team so far this season 10-4 coming off the Summit League. Victories at Green Bay. They beat Portland State. They beat Chicago State. Went to Northern Colorado and won. They beat the Montana Grizzlies. They were able to beat West Michigan. They went to Bowling Green and blew them out 93-68. What are they going to do when they go to that absolute cesspool known as UC Riverside? They're going to take care of business. St. Thomas, Minnesota, the Tommies are just the better basketball team. They play good defense. UC Riverside, last time they played a somewhat decent defensive team was UNLV. They couldn't score. They couldn't score when they played Idaho. The same thing's going to happen in this game when they play the Tommies. St. Thomas, Minnesota is just the better team. UC Riverside is horrible, and I refuse to pick UC Riverside in anything because it is just, no, we're not. We're staying as far away from UC Riverside. I don't want to contract an STD while I'm at it. We're going to take St. Thomas, Minnesota to win this basketball game, all right? And we're not going to catch syphilis. So we are going to say no to UCR, and we're taking St. Thomas, Minnesota to ensure we don't get gonorrhea. Okay? That's what we're doing. We're taking the Tommies out of St. Thomas, Minnesota to win this basketball game. We get close to even here. We're actually getting plus money to take the Summit League in this basketball game, so sign me up. Give me the St. Thomas, Minnesota Tommies plus 100, plus 1.5. Get this value while you can. I'm taking the Tommies to go to Riverside, to Ontario, California, and take care of business. Now, real quick, before we end the video, those are the 5 best bets, guys. I just want to look at the most interesting team I've ever seen play. Just on the schedule. I'm looking at the schedule right now, guys. What is Friends University, and why are they going to Wichita, Kansas to play Wichita State? Again, I just love seeing these random-ass schools, so let's look up what the hell Friends University is, and why are they playing Wichita State? So it's Friends University. This is their mascot. This is a bird. It's nice. They're a Christian Quaker heritage school? Okay, I could be wrong, but if my elementary school history class ever taught me anything, the Quakers were in Pennsylvania, and that's why you get the Quaker Oats guy on, the package of, the rice cakes. But they're in Kansas. How did the Quakers get from Pennsylvania to Kansas? Garfield University? James Garfield. Okay, I know that. This president got shot, unfortunately, and got killed. How did the Quakers come down here? Doesn't say. Why is this team, how did Wichita State get to play these guys? How does it happen? And why is it called Friends University? There's only a 52% graduation rate, 62% acceptance rate. It's not 100? Oh, that's one hell of a shot, though. I'll give it to them. That's a nice campus. That's a really nice campus. My goodness. Oh, it's in Wichita. Makes sense. That's how they're playing Wichita State. Regardless, had to say it. I saw it on the schedule. I was like, what the hell is Friends University? Regardless, folks, thank y'all for watching our 5 best bets for college basketball here on December 28th. If you haven't, that's NBA. If you haven't yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to join us for the NBA predictions coming in about an hour. Thank y'all for watching. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank y'all for watching. And Mamba forever.